Usually I just put it up there and it puts me in a place, and then I just touch this little bar and I go on. But it's configured differently today. So it looked like it was just,
You couldn't find the bar. Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Good morning, Mike. So it is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, and welcome to our talk show, Talking Niagara this morning. So,
hi, Gary. I'm all ready for the pool game, buddy. I'm all pulled. Is that where the computer is? Okay, yeah.
Are those the cheating glasses? Are they?
Yeah, you better bet me a lot of money, Gary. You better put a lot of big odds on it, and then we'll see. Yes, well, Gary and I are going to shoot some pool today. I haven't shot any pool since Portugal in August, or was it July? In July in Portugal.
It feels like I haven't shot pool since 1962. No, actually, it would be 1979.
Okay, all right. How much money do you have?
Nothing.
Oh, well, forget it. Stay away from the pool hall then.
Yeah.
We'll take your car. We'll take that Jeep you drive.
Yeah, and how will I get to work?
Pool.
And how will I get to work?
Oh, that's your problem, buddy. You should have gotten the pool game in the first place.
I wasn't getting in the pool game, and I've never played anything for money ever. You know.
Well, I can't say the same, but I'm not exactly the gambler, but
yeah, I don't know. I prefer to play for fun. Anyway,
my best story about that was I was shooting pool. I went to North Tonawanda. In those days, the bars opened right to 5:30 in the morning.
Oh wow!
I went to North Tonawanda, and I was going to meet my friends there after, loading up over here, and ended up at North Tonawanda. It's about 3:00 in the morning, and I'm in there, and there's a little pool table waiting for my friends, and I got hot, and I started winning. And these American guys, we made a deal back then. It was $5 a game for me and $4 for them because they were American. There was better money, right? At that time, the exchange was about 80 cents. So I was playing and playing and playing, and I was just kept winning, right? And I was just getting shit lucky. And so finally, these guys started to get mad because I think they thought I was taking them like I was sharking them, but it was just plain luck. I was just plain lucky. And then they said then they started insisting we had to call the shots. And so I did. I called every shot. And then I was really in a jam. I was going for the 8-ball, and I was really hooked. And so I called this shot. I shot off this bank, off that bank, hit the 8-ball off the bank and in the side like that. And they all kind of laughed. And so I shot it, and that's exactly what happened. And the guy was so mad, he took his $4 and threw it down on the table. Now I had a mitt full of U.S. money at the time, and these guys were getting really mad now. And I figured my friends aren't here. I'm in a pretty vulnerable state. So I said, okay. And then I went to get going, and they said, "Where the hell are you going?" I says, "Well, I just got to go to the pisser." So I did. I went to the washroom, and then went out the back door and ran over to my car, drove away.
Best thing to do, yeah. Okay, so it was 5 years ago today that COVID claimed its first victim in Niagara, an 84-year-old resident of Ina Grafton Gage Village in St. Catharines.
Yeah, that first wave was a pretty bad one. It was the one where people suffocated, their lungs filled up with fluids. And that was the time when they were putting people were getting so anxious that when their lungs were filling up with fluid, they were kind of like thrashing about and so that's where a lot of them they had to put in comas. If you remember that, they induced a lot of people in COVID. You didn't hear about that a little later on, but that first incarnation of COVID would fill people's lungs up with fluids.
I don't specifically remember that, but yeah, I get it. I don't remember the coma thing, but I hope that saved a few lives.
Yeah, it was. You didn't see it later on in as the pandemic changed, as it morphed into one kind or another, Betamax 55 or whatever those numbers they put on it.
Yeah.
They so it basically started to morph into different things. But that first wave killed 20 of the 91 residents in my mother's residence in a matter of 6 weeks to 2 months. They're all gone.
Yeah,
20 of them gone.
Yeah, and who's to so 5 years ago, and yeah, we kind of passed the 5th anniversary on March 16th of COVID, and we didn't even think about talking about it then. We should have done.
No, yeah. Well, we remember they've sort of forgotten about me and you and I were still in the studio doing our show, and Rick came in. Oh, guys, you can't be in here anymore. Remember that? Came in the morning, and I think we were the last ones that were broadcasting in there. Rick had forgotten about us because we started in the morning, early in the morning.
Yeah. Oh well, doesn't matter. We're through. We got through it. We didn't die.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of conspiracy stuff all hanging around us, and which really bothers me a lot because the conspiracies seems to be winning out. But very early on in the pandemic, a few people had warned. I remember reading, and we probably brought it up on the show too, that people's patience with it will only last 2 years maximum, and then there will be a real. That's the prediction, and that's almost exactly what happened. After the 2-year mark, people just didn't care whether or not they were going to get sick or whatever. They just went out there. But by that time, people had built up immunities. There'd been a lot of people who have had vaccinations. I had 5 of them, and according to the conspiracies, I should be green and dead by now, with one big eyeball, 4 head, walking around like a zombie.
Shh, everybody, don't tell Dave that's exactly what he looks like.
Oh, well, I'm still the most handsome one on this show.
Anyway, yeah, so it was actually, if you think about it, it was a bit of a nightmarish time in our in our lives, right?
Well, I like it.
And I have to say, are we still alive, or did we die back then?
Well, they got on it pretty quick. Like the other retirement homes in the area, they didn't get anyone contaminated in before they brought the protocols in, and that saved a lot of people. But any nursing home or retirement resident that got anybody infected in it in the early days, they got wasted. But the other ones were able to put up the protocols at around March 17th. If they started the protocols 2 or 3 weeks earlier in my mom's place, those people probably wouldn't have died. There may be 1 or 2, maybe. But the fact is, it got in there and it affected everybody. 70 people got infected right away, and 20 of those died. Luckily, my mother, she's made of iron. She was like,
as far as she was
concerned, like she's like back then, she was like around pushing 90, and she never got a sniffle, but her neighbors were dying.
Yeah. Well, and so she's been there for more than 5 years, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So she's a survivor.
Yeah, she was there for 6 years, yeah.
Yeah.
She's been there for 6 years and a little.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, she went all through that. And, but you know what? I got to tell you something. The whole time that was going on, I wasn't worried about her. I could see all these people dying there. And I just kind of knew that my mother's immune system was pretty powerful. And the legendary Wilma Morrison lived direct in the unit directly below my mother, and I would see her there all the time. And she was one of the first to go, but she was a gregarious person. She went out and moved around and talked to other people. She was 91 at the time. She still had lots left in her, you know what I mean? She had a lot of vigor left. Her brain was still good. I used to have good conversations with her. Me and my mom, she would join me and my mom sometimes and have good conversations. But then when the wave went through and they killed so many people in that retirement home, that she was just happened to be one of them. I fear it's because she was gregarious. She was out talking to people all the time, and that probably put her more at risk.
Yeah, well, and hopefully we're all through that now. I've not heard of any COVID deaths more recently. In fact, don't think you've even looked up the world COVID stats more recently.
Well, they're still killing people here in Niagara. They've killed COVID killed over 800 people here, and it's still taking lives here. But it's one here and one there, and it would be probably the most vulnerable people in our society now. Well, as it did, but not as vehemently as it did before. Not with the Dr. Hergy, the guy there who was the doctor for the area, he said that he'd made a number of mistakes, particularly in communication, building trust. He said the changing narrative all the time lost the medical officials' trust because the narrative kept changing from the officials, from the province to the region. He said he learned a few lessons about communication, but they do have happily say they lost 60% less than the average for Ontario, I guess. So we lost 60% less. I think that might be the fact that we're more of a spread out community, but you can see concentrated places like New York or Toronto.
Yeah, but again, do you know what I'd like to say? There are still victims of COVID out there, insofar as you go to our commercial districts, they seem to be empty. They seem to be void.
That's mostly because everybody's skint. We're skinned. We don't have enough loot. Yeah, basically that is it. If you were to ask me why people aren't out there into shopping, I said there's a number of different reasons. For one thing, we learned to shop online, and happily I did, because most of the time when I go to a store, I can't find,
what you want. Yeah,
the site. I'm looking for, svelte size, masculine shirts and stuff like that, and all I can see there is triple extra large, and that's just no good. So I can go on Amazon and get felt size shirts and felt bastard. Well, here's one for so my cousins used to call me the svelte bastard or the fat bastard, but then later on I lost a little weight, so they started calling me the svelte bastard.
Okay. Alberta Premier's office.
It was just for your information.
Denies that Smith was asking the US to interfere in the federal election. That seems to me rather a stretch, right? I have to say. Why would she be asking something like that? Whilst I get that in her opinion, Pierre Poilievre might well be more aligned to the Trump administration, and she might believe that. I don't believe that she would be asking the America to actually interfere in our elections.
This looks like a typical make a mountain out of a molehill thing.
Yeah.
Seriously, just because she didn't phrase it particularly accurate, because she was talking to Breitbart, which is a right-wing media thing. I think her words were just taken right out of context. All
I
of them.
agree.
You know, I what I've read and how it's a stretch to think that she's trying to propose, that the U.S. interferes somehow in our elections and all that, and wait until the elections are over, stop pushing the tariffs because it's better for the conservatives if they don't stop. Well, the conservatives are fighting against the tariffs as hard as anyone. Look at Doug Ford.
Exactly. You look at Doug Ford. You look at Pierre. What some of the things that Pierre Poilievre has said, and look at many conservatives. They've been talking about let's build new markets.
In short, I'm reading a couple different articles. This one from I think it's the CBC. It is utter rubbish article written by somebody who had nothing else to say, was bored and didn't have anything better to say, so made a mountain of it, a molehill. I think you should just lay off of her. She's always been a number one Canadian fan, and she's sticking up for us. She may have a few different views of it because her province may be much more hurt by any kind of tariff that comes in because of they have oil basically and maybe cattle. And what else do they have? What does Saskatchewan? Oil, gas, and potash. So, for now.
She has the right to her view. Yeah, she has the right to voice her view, even if you might disagree with it, right?
I will caution her, though, she has to be more careful. All politicians have to be very, very careful how they voice their opinions, because if there is any way in which it could be taken out of context, some journalist is going to do that, or some political opponent. In this particular case, if you didn't listen to it the way exactly what she said, you would, I don't know, you might get the wrong idea. But she vehemently cuts across that and says, no, I didn't do anything like that at all. I'm not doing that, what you say I'm doing. Yeah. And why are you interpreting what I said that way?
Yeah, I don't believe she was anyway. She told she apparently told the US officials that she hoped we could put things on pause so Canada could get through the election. And she believes, she's her right to believe, she believes that Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is more aligned to Trump's administration agenda, right? And that's her right to believe that, right?
But she also says the election has to happen, so we have a firm political.
I'm not going to disagree with her about the need for the election. We have to do it.
Yeah. So the implication was there that if Trump laid off the tariff thing, that the conservatives would have a better chance. So she's saying the implication or the accusation is that she's asking through the media to the president, lay off the tariffs for now, and we'll get a conservative government up here. I don't think she meant that at all, one bit. Remember, every one of the premiers, her included, are trying to find any excuse to hold the tariffs back.
Yeah.
I will point out that the stock market shot way up the other day because they feel that Trump will lay off on some of the tariffs. So probably the car tariffs, probably the wood tariffs. We don't know. Oil, electricity, and all that may also be laid off. I think it would hurt the economy too much. We'll see what happens on April 2nd. The aluminum and steel thing might carry on, but they don't have the capacity to make the aluminum. They can get some of their old steel mills up and going, so they could probably make up some of that, but it's going to be a show when that happens April 2nd. I expect that the stock market will plunge again. I think a lot of people are making a lot of good money on this.
The stock market's very nervous.
Watching it go back up, selling it, and so on.
Yeah, the stock market's very nervous right now, and those savvy traders can make a lot of money on it because they know when to sell and when to buy. People like you and I that possibly are not as familiar with the stock market wouldn't know those little telltale signs, and we'd probably lose a fortune.
Well, yeah. So yeah. So you might as well put me in. You might as well put me in a trap game.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why you have money managers for fun. Like your pension fund has a money manager, right?
Yeah, like mine. Honest, honest Fred Smith.
Well, your money,
who wears suits that look like I don't know, tablecloths.
Yeah. Also, by the way, Greenland is getting in on this, condemning proposed U.S. visit by Second Lady Usher Vance and a Trump advisor.
Yeah, what is it with Trump wanting to be an imperialist? The why does he want to acquire Iceland? Why does he want to change the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America? He wants Iceland so he can show everybody, look, I conquered a place. I expanded the size of the United States. I am like James Polk or the other presidents that expanded west and stole territory from Mexico, or took Puerto Rico or something like that. He wants to be an expansionist because right now in Iceland they already have a treaty where the Americans can bring up as much armor as they want. As a matter of fact, they used to have way more military bases or military personnel in Greenland, and that was by treaty established back in the 40s.
Yeah.
So all this time they've had bases there. My own friend who works for the Army Corps of Engineers been there 8 times, no restrictions at all. Plus, any minerals that the U.S. wants out of their rare earth minerals will be gladly developed with cooperation of the Greenland government. They would be glad to see the big American companies in there and develop that stuff. But what Trump wants to do is take it, annex it, make it part of the USA, just like he wants to annex Canada. Well, he wants to do that. He wants to be an imperialist. He wants to show everybody, look at what I did. I got us some more territory. There is no reason why the U.S. has to own that island. No reason at all. But he wants that feather in his cap.
Well, and part of the reason for, Greenland has got such massive mineral reserves, or at least it's suspected to have. And one of the questions about this, of course, is that, Canada, of course, is the way that you bring that said mineral reserves to the USA. That's why he wants Canada as well.
No, I just
we also have a lot of mineral reserves that he doesn't have as well.
He wants to be an imperialist. He wants to go down in history as the president that expanded like North America, his own country, made it great again by stealing Canada and stealing Greenland. Now he's got a big gun, so he can force Greenland, but it does not make any sense. It doesn't make any sense what they're doing to Canada either, because all they have to do is, if we've got nickel, tungsten, uranium, all we have to do is mine it, and we'll give you as much as you want. As much as you want, tariff-free according to the USMCA. So it's in his mind that he has to be an imperialist. He wants to be the pharaoh, basically. Next thing you know, he's going to be building pyramids in Washington, with his head on top.
Yeah. Okay. So outgoing Greenlandic Prime Minister Moot Egedy described the plan as aggressive and said the Jew had no business had not been invited for meetings. All right,
No, they hadn't been invited. They're coming up there without invitation.
Yeah.
Now, if it being just a regular soldier or general or something like that going up to view the military bases they have, remember, they let those military bases squander. They had huge military bases up there, but decided they didn't need them and left. And now all of a sudden, oh, well, we got to have the whole country.
Yeah. Yeah.
They never did go up there and help them develop any kind of minerals or natural gas or anything like that. They had a scientific station there. That's about it. So it's just a big lie.
Yeah. So Greenland's basically, it looks like Greenland's in at the polls at the moment because, or I don't know exactly how Greenland politics works, but outgoing Greenlandic Prime Minister Moot Egede commented upon this, as did the probable next Prime Minister Jens Frederick Nielsen.
Yeah, what's going to happen is the current president, of course, they're looking for total autonomy. They have autonomy. They're looking for total independence, but that will take a little while. And contrary to what Trump says that Denmark has no rights really to Greenland. They've been there since the 1400s, really, and they've actually took possession of it legally in 300 years ago. So what does he mean by that? I mean, like, does the United States have the right to hold on to Puerto Rico? Do they have the right to hold on to Hawaii?
Or Guam?
Or Guam or U.S. Samoa, any of those places? So the whole thing is hypocritical BS. And but as I said, the people of Greenland have overwhelmingly determined that they do not want to be part of the United States. They've said this: look, if you want to come in here and help us develop resources, yeah, thumbs up. If you want to come up here and use your military bases like you used to, come on up. We already had those agreements in place, but leave us alone. We're going to be our own country. But Trump needs that feather in his cap. I conquered Greenland. I conquered the Gulf of America.
Good morning, Karen. Good morning.
Good morning, Green Party. We're talking about Greenland, and we're not talking about the Green. The Green Party has nothing really to do with Greenland here. But I will remind everybody that Karen is our candidate for the Green Party here in Niagara.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about that, as we move on, just currently the where am I? I'm lost. Canada 388 is currently looking at so this is last update March 24th. So that's yesterday. They're looking at 172. They need 172 seats for a majority. Currently, 388 Canada is projecting 178 for Liberals, with a range of 150 to 203, and 130 for the Conservatives with a range of 106 to 157. What a turnaround in 3 months.
Yes, because right now, when the Liberals are going to have their Christmas party, their Santa Claus will now look like Trump, because that's what they've done. They're going to have a modern version of Santa Claus. And it's going to be a guy with a blue suit, red tie, white shirt, orange skin, and yellow hair. And he's going to be their Santa Claus, because he has done that for the Liberals. He's given them an early Christmas present by just being who he is. The Liberals were completely vanquished. They were 25 points behind. Mark Carney was supposed to be the savior, but there was no confidence in that at all. And along comes Trump and starts hassling us. And guess what? The Liberal Party soars up.
Yeah, but again, this is could be seen as a statistical blip. Statistically, when you look at things like this, the statistics considers it a blip. So there's a possibility. There's still a possibility you could get like a 25-seat majority for the Conservatives in Parliament at the next election.
Oh, you could. Excuse me. Don't worry.
And that's about the shape of it. So whilst the popular vote projection is holding nationwide Liberals at 39% and Conservatives at 37%, with NDP at 11 and Bloc at 7. Well, obviously, Bloc, it being a regional party, will get more seats regionally. They're likely to get 25, and NDP only about 8.
The NDP are going to be shattered to pieces if they don't get their act together. And I don't know about the Green Party. Maybe Elizabeth May will get one. Get her.
Well, Green, they're still projecting 2 for Green.
2 for Green. Well, we'll see about that. Yeah, maybe we'll get 1 or 2 for Green. But basically, the battle is between the Liberals and Conservatives. I think it's a little bit way too early to tell. Carney's still coming off the honeymoon period. When the Conservative soldiers get out there and start marching the pavement and going house to house, I think that might sway things. But I can't see either the Liberals or the Conservatives getting more than a minority government right now. That may change going forward. Definitely Carney looks like he's a better guy to deal with Trump. He's the first leader that didn't run down to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring. He ignored him completely when he became leader and went to Europe instead.
Best thing to do.
Right? Yeah, you're better off ignoring the guy because he craves attention so much that if you do give him attention, he just exploits it. Is he going to call Mark Carney the governor of Canada? We'll see what happens there. If Carney might just like I call Trump the mayor of Mar-a-Lago, but we'll see I don't think he's going to get into that kind of a spat.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is about all of this is that it's only literally in the last 3 months that there's been a complete reversal of fortunes of the Liberals and the Conservatives, and in the last month, it's been where the Liberals have taken the lead in the polls.
And Justin can rightly say, I saved the Liberals by hanging on to power for the very last minute until Trump got into office and started slurring the crap out of it.
What an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, that's a political slant, isn't it? Up until that point, he was the guy that ruined the party, but now he can claim he saved the party by just hanging in there just long enough, And
interestingly, we have some potential things to look out for in this area. Well, Hamilton West and Ancaster will have a brand new MP this year. The Liberal Philomena Tassi won the seat back in 2015, and it was the first federal Liberal elected in the city since 2004. And she's basically decided she's stepping down for personal reasons, doesn't talk about why. So that Hamilton West and Ancaster will have a brand new MP. Hamilton Mountain was the Liberal candidate beat the NDP there by 835 votes at the last election in 21. And she's projected, well, it's going to be a close fight again this time, right? Then when we turn to our ones, Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake is actually it's one of these new ridings. So we've dropped Fort Erie as Fort Erie becomes part of Niagara South, and Tony Baldinelli is up against, he got 38% of the vote last time with Liberals in second place at 33, but he's up against Andrea Kaiser, Dinah Althrope for PPC, and our own Karen Fraser for the Green Party. The NDP has yet to announce its candidate for Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake.
What is it with the NDP? How come they're so bad right now? I mean, they have no presence at all. I mean, even provincially, they didn't do so well. They became the official party of the opposition. But what is it with the NDP? How come they've crashed and burned like that? Well, of course, they hitched the wagon to Trudeau, but there's got to be more than just that. They really are a sort of lackluster party right now. Well, and that's good for the Liberals, though, because that'll be less votes taken away from them coming up.
And the other one is Niagara Centre. Lance, it was Niagara Centre, now it's Niagara South. Lance Badaway was the Liberal MP for Niagara Centre with 35% of the vote, with second place being Conservative at 31%. And Badaway is going to be is now called Niagara South, and includes Fort Erie. So Badaway will be campaigning for re-election against a Conservative candidate and regional councillor Fred Davis, and Chantal McCollum from the NDP, Peter Tarras from PPC, and the Greens have yet to announce for that constituency.
Well, here I think Baldinelli is reasonably safe. Kaiser is a very good candidate. She is, like, if I was to vote for somebody just because of their character, I would vote for her. We've interviewed her, but if
we interviewed both Baldinelli and Kaiser. I interviewed Baldinelli one time.
Yeah, and they're both solid.
Yeah,
you could toss a coin if you were just basing it on their character. That's all.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see what happens. Kaiser could get some wind in her sails because of the sort of the Liberal comeback. Basically, that could help her. I think it's going to be pretty hard for her to unseat the incumbent, however. But
what you don't know is what the factor which happens with both Niagara South and Niagara Falls and Niagara on the Lake is that these are new constituencies, so we don't know what the boundary changes will do to those ridings.
It'll be interesting to see how Baldinelli answers the questions. Inevitably, is the new Conservative Party just the Trump Party of Canada, which is the accusation, because Poilievre uses a lot of Trump-like talking points. I don't think he's anywhere near Trump myself. I think that's an exploded view. However, he didn't make himself look too good with his continual character assassination instead of sticking to the issues. We will see. I would like to see, once whoever wins this, once it's done, they set up a war cabinet, just like in war, where the regular order of business is sort of suspended, or at least the business is prioritized to a multi-party response to the existential threat of Trump and his tariffs. I think that would be a good move, where you can get the parties together and say, okay, we're going to sort of have this war cabinet, this trade war cabinet, and work together in response to this existential threat.
Whoever is the new prime minister, whoever succeeds at this election, what we must do is build new markets for Canada. We need to abolish interprovincial tariffs. Absolutely abolish every single one of them. There's not really any excuse for any of the ones that I've heard about, and there's probably many that I don't know about. Right? I'll stick that one out there. But we've got to start building new worldwide trading partners.
Well, it's very typical of our politics. We talk about the Liberals being more progressive and the Conservatives being more of the right and all that. But I would say universally, it doesn't matter who's in government, they are short-sighted. Canadians are always very short-sighted. They don't look into the future. All this stuff could have been done years and years and years ago. It's been talked about over and over and over again. When I was a union leader, a big issue with us was the fact that we couldn't send our workers into Quebec, but they could send their workers into Ontario. Alberta took on all kinds of people from down east to go and work into their oil fields when they had a big boom going there. A lot of the construction trades, but that was not reciprocal. They weren't allowed to do the same thing in the other provinces. So those kind of barriers have to be dropped. Just the fact that you can work in different provinces, no problem. And
Karen likes your idea about the war cabinet.
Yeah. A trade war cabinet would be a very good idea. Just let's drop our differences, combine our efforts, and work on this existential threat.
Yeah. And as I say, we've got to build outside markets, and that's
I have an idea. Like Trump turned the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. If we change the name of the country to Florida North, he won't be able to find us. Change Ottawa's name to New Mar-a-Lago. He'd say, "Where'd Canada go? The Soviets stole it. The Russians stole it. The Chinese stole
it." Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Israel is building an agency for voluntary departure from Gaza.
I like that word voluntary, don't you?
It's voluntary at the edge of a gun, isn't it? Here's my gun up your nose. Get out now.
This is the brand new bayonet I got from Donald Trump. Jab. I guess you want to leave. Jab. I'm going to help you leave. Jab, jab. Good thing you volunteered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an idiotic thing. Now, there's going to be some people volunteering to leave because they have medical problems, and there is no. I mean, they just bombed the last cancer hospital in Gaza. They're going to make sure there's nothing there, hospitals, schools, anything. So if you have a family and you're worried about your kids, and if you're worried about getting the medical attention or even feeding them because they cut off the food again, or giving them water because they cut off the power to the desalination plant. So you're going to make that tough decision to go to Egypt or Jordan and never be allowed to come back. So they're going to say, "Oh, you can go to Jordan and get your daughter fixed in the hospital, and we'll let you back." And then they never do, of course. Yeah, this is unfortunately Trump did not stop the war that I hoped he would. He did not stop the one in Ukraine as I hoped he would. That's the only plus side I ever had with Trump was his potential to stop wars, but he hasn't been able to do it. He may be able to get the one quieted in Ukraine, but the one in Gaza, he's going to be slapped around by Netanyahu, as he always has been, as every American president actually has been. So Netanyahu's calling the shots there. Trump is just kind of saying, "Hey, you want some more bombs? I'll give them to you." Sound a little like Biden?
Yeah, too much. And what's changed? He supposedly brought a ceasefire, but now that ceasefire has been breached.
Yeah, he's a shill to Netanyahu and the Israeli lobby. He doesn't care about the Palestinians. Let's face it. He could care less if they all died tomorrow. He could care less.
Yeah, and in fact, this Israeli move is basically just bringing up his vision of Gaza. The Mar-a-Lago East, isn't it? The Gulf Coast.
I'm not even sure he was that serious about it because he hasn't mentioned anything about it at all. He's too busy trying to conquer Greenland, so he can. He thinks himself as Alexander the Great. Donald Trump the Great. I'm going to fight my adversaries. Alexander the Great took on the greatest power of all time, the Persian Empire. Not Donald Trump. He's going to take on Greenland.
Yeah, how many people live in Greenland? Less than 50,000, and he's going to send a million, an army of 1 million strong up there.
Yeah, they've got seven police. They got 7 police officers that are unarmed. That means it's Trump will do the what is it? That strategy they used in Iraq, shock and awe. Yeah, they're going to bomb the crap out of the ice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm not.
Gaza is a very, very sad thing. Children again are dying, and anytime you get people in denial of the kind of when you have every agency on the ground there giving you numbers of how many people died or how many people suffer, and then you pretend that they're not the real numbers. That's 50,000 dead is a minimum of who amount of people died. And right now, at least those people are dead and they're in no pain. There are probably 100,000 with got to be at least 50,000 who have been maimed, legs off, eyes out, arms off. Particularly,
well, where would the Gaza people go? Asked Karen. It sounds as if every country's reached their immigration quotas, and that's for true. And you know what? You know when they used to say that the Jews were the nomads of the Middle East of Israel and the like, for more than 1,000 years. Well, I guess the Gazans are going to be the nomads of the Middle East for 1,000 years.
They're going to be forcefully expelled from their land. And that is exactly what Netanyahu wants to do. They want to forcefully expel them from the east, or the West Bank as well. And they can do that because they have power in the United States through their Israel lobby.
And they've actually taken quite large chunks of Syria now.
Syria and Lebanon, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you take in the West Bank, parts of the Sinai, Gaza, the Golan Heights, parts of Syria and Lebanon, that's beginning to resemble the idea of greater Israel that the Zionists really want. They want this bigger hunk, a part of Syria, a part of Jordan, actually, which a part of the Sinai, Gaza, and a part of Lebanon. That is the greater Israel, and that's what the Zionists are looking for. They want the other side of the West Bank too, by the way, or other side of the Jordan River, which is the border now between. So that'll be in the future. That'll be another expansion. I don't know how much Israel can keep sucking money out of the United States for these projects, but it seems to be kind of endless right now. And you don't have anybody like Trump hasn't had the backbone to face up to Netanyahu. Biden didn't have the backbone to face up to Netanyahu. They just have too much powerful political force with the Israeli lobby in the United States. So, and they are marginal people, very poor marginal people. So it's easy to forget them. It's easy because people don't care about them.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be a big loss for our local heritage, but the Hudson Bay store at the Penn Center is preparing to close.
Oh, that's sad. There's a couple of Hudson Bay stores that will keep open. A couple of flagship ones, one in Toronto, one in Montreal. I think one in New York City. But the company that started in 1670, I think it was 1670 or thereabouts. It is
I think it's well a few years before then, but I'll accept that as being approximately right.
Yeah, it's around 1664 or 1670. This Hudson Bay Company was established. It has been a company ever since. When I used to go up north up to Nipigon, where my mom used to live. There was a Hudson Bay store there. There was still Hudson Bay trading posts out there. So they've been a long fixture of Canada for sure. So they've been very, very important. As a matter of fact, I'm reading a book right now about David Thompson, and he got his start with the Hudson Bay Company. And it was only Hudson Bay Company politics that pushed him into the hands of the Northwest Company, where he did most of his good work. But he did a lot of really fine work with the Hudson Bay Company, including maps and locations and stuff like that. Anyone who doesn't know who David Thompson was he was the greatest land explorer of all time that nobody knows.
Yeah, but you see, he's the one who did a lot of the map work up in the Hudson Bay area, wasn't he?
Hudson Bay, all the way down into the United States, all the way the northern territories of Canada. As a matter of fact, what's the two guys, Lewis and Clark, who in 1804 started their trip out west. They were using his maps, and they knew about his work already, and they were using some of his maps, and so he was way ahead of them. But he was doing his stuff more to the north of them than they were, although he had already been to some of those parts that Lewis and Clark had entered.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, when you're looking at new territory and you're investigating new territory, you're not actually constrained by future boundaries, right?
Yeah, there was no real boundary there. They one of the things that David Thompson had to do was try to find out where the 49th parallel actually began. So when the treaty came in 1818 or 1811 or whatever the treaty date was after I think it was 1818, one of the things he had to do is find out where the 49th parallel began in and around Lake of the Woods. So from Lake of the Woods onwards, where does the 49th parallel begin? These were important because they had to figure out where the sources of the Mississippi were and other rivers, the Missouri. He did all that. He went all through their area. Yeah. So anyway, to make a long story short, the Hudson Bay Company was very important to all the northern communities. And it was a company that owned all those lands, Rupert's Land up all around Hudson Bay in northern Canada. And then Rupert's Land became incorporated into Canada.
So these stores, the Hudson Bay stores around the country, like at the Penn Centre, I project that these are probably going to be turning into little either kiosks or smaller stores. So this is going to be like a maze of stores in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Good place for the homeless.
Well, there's going to be escalators that are going up and down, and I think you'll find that those will continue in place. And what will end up happening is you'll end up with, stores dotted around the place.
Yeah, it could be like that. What used to be some of the big department stores used to do that. Like, for instance, I don't know, like you'd get something like Zellers or Kmart or something like that, and they would rent space to a vendor of shoes, or rent space to a vendor of perfume. Yeah. So you'd go into the store, and there would be a variety of different things, but they didn't sell the perfume. They rent the place off for makeup and perfume to a particular vendor. They would do the same thing for shoes. I knew a guy that worked at a shoe store that was like that. The shoe, you go to Kmart or whatever the store was, but Kmart weren't the ones that imported the shoes or supplied the shoes. It was a company that rented the space in Kmart or something.
And even though you paid the main Kmart till, or Hudson Bay till, for all of your shopping, that individual store would get paid for the shoes that you purchased.
Yeah, I guess it was something like that. You may have back in those days, though, you may have had a special cash register for the shoe department. Like you go into Walmart today, or there's the electronic part, and they've got their own cashier there, for
no, actually, you go to Walmart today, and the last time I bought anything electronic in Walmart, you paid at the front desk. The person just took it up there, so they would get their commission.
Okay, well, that was different from when I did. I bought a phone there once in Walmart, and they had the cash register right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's changed, I guess.
Probably a different Walmart. Maybe
it's one in town here. It's the one in town.
I haven't bought electronics from Walmart for a long time.
Well, this goes back to 2016,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I bought a cheap phone for traveling.
It was a long time before that when I bought anything for, electronics for Walmart. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it is a sad end, but I guess that area will open up as a new set of stores, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to it.
Yeah. I hope they keep the escalators going.
Yeah, you don't want to walk up that flights of stairs there, Peter?
No, not really. I don't want to walk up any stairs anymore anyway, because my knees kill me.
I hate shopping anyway, so I won't be seeing too much of the. Depending on what's going in there, I guess. I'm not even curious, basically, because shopping's not my thing.
It's all right. It's all right. You can put a new. You can. I tell you what. You can put in there. You can put a new Lowe's. A Rona in there. How about that?
Well, whatever. Maybe a Princess Auto, like somebody suggested. Bring a Princess Auto, because the last time I was in Princess Auto, it's been a long time. That Princess Auto, actually, it just had lots of neat stuff, all kinds of stuff that I didn't need but I wanted to buy. All kinds of cool tools and trailers and compressors and everything I don't need but I would like to have.
And for some reason I see that probably places like the Penn Center are going to try and hang on for a mega store to move in there, but I think they'll be hard pushed to even find one.
Yeah.
Right. And they'd be best to just kind of say, hey, we're gonna do small boutiques in that area.
I don't know what the future of shopping is. People still like to shop in places like.
Well,
today I'll probably be taking a lady I'll have to take I'm going to take a lady or bingo lady to the bank this morning, but I don't know where else she wants me to take her. Quite often it's Costco, and I see lots of people in there happily shopping away it seems to be for no other reason than to shop, because the stuff in the cart doesn't make much sense to me.
It's interesting. I'd probably go into Costco, I don't know, probably once a month, once every 6 weeks or so. But there's probably 3/4 of Costco I've never been to.
Well, there you go. You can put on your Explorer boots and go walking around.
Yeah.
The one in St. Catharines, a friend of mine used to take me there once in a while when we were buying something for something. I don't know. I would join him there. And I walked around that store one time, and he was doing his shopping. I wasn't doing any shopping. I was just kind of hanging with him. And I walked around that store, everywhere into that store, just to have an exploration of it. It's pretty fascinating, basically, how it was all set up. And the fact that they pay their staff better than anyone else makes me want to get a card to go shopping there, but except I hate shopping, so I probably won't.
There you go. So Hudson Bay, Hudson Bay then and Dave don't get along.
Well, no, shopping. I like the Hudson Bay as much as any. I like the old Hudson Bay store up in Nipigon. I remember as a kid, they had a polar bear pelt right on the wall, a whole polar bear pelt.
Yeah.
It was $500 in 19 1965 when I think that was there. And I'd go up to visit my grandmother and grandfather up there, with our whole family did. And I remember I was fascinated by that. So every year I would go up, or whatever we went up there, I make sure I went to the Hudson Bay store, because there would be this big polar bear pelt on the wall right at there, and it was like $500, and I wanted that polar belt like crazy. That big polar bear rug it was, right?
Yeah.
And it was a real polar bear skin. That's why it was the amazing cost of $500.
And of course, that $500 back then was probably worth what, 500,000 today.
Well, when
in your little kid's mind, of course,
that was huge money for anybody. So there's no way I was going to be able to talk my mother and father and getting a polar bear rug made out of a real polar bear skin. No way. But as disappointed as I was, they're lying there, claws still on them, head, and it was all really well done pelt, or whatever you call it. The skin of the polar bear was all laid out. Oh boy, did I ever want that. 11-year-old Dave looked at that and coveted that.
Just to make you a little bit jealous, I don't remember what animal it was, but my grandfather had one of those pelts.
Polar bear, bro?
Not polar bear. It was, I don't remember the animal, but he had an animal pelt with a skull, with the facial features still in it.
Well, I did have a black bear pelt. I had a black bear pelt.
Yeah, I think it was probably
with a head on it as well.
Yeah, no, I think it was probably not a bear. It was not a. I think it was probably a deer or something like that.
Oh.
If memory serves, but it's such a long time ago. I was a kid back then,
Oh, probably a badger made out of roadkill.
No, it was a bigger animal. It was a big animal. It had, it had quite a large pelt on it.
It was the neighbor's dog.
No, it wasn't dog.
His neighbor's dog run over.
It wasn't dog. But you see, my grandfather was wealthy.
I was. What happened, Peter? What happened? Where's that loot now?
Yeah, well, that's another question.
Well. Anyway, we're getting far off the beam here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I suppose we should say our adieus, because it's 8:05 and people are probably pretty tired of us right now. So without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace in Gaza for sure. Let's hope the Ukraine thing happens as well.